Good evening and welcome to your Tennessee postgame show here on the Voice of College Football Network. Happy to have all of you along with us on this Tuesday night. If you are new here, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football on YouTube. We are live every Monday night at 8 Eastern Time and after games whenever they end. This is the final postgame show of 2025. So I guess we won't have another one of these until sometime in April. If the spring game, if we do a post game show for the spring game, that is. Sorry, a little out of a rhythm here. Haven't done a show in a little over a week. So why are we gathered here tonight? You'll never guess what happened in the Music City Bowl. Tennessee got walked off on a field goal attempt again, 30-28. This time by Illinois. And look, Jordan, I don't want to be the guy that says, I told you so to all of these fans that went to the game and the fans that are choosing joy. Because, listen, if you got to go to that game today and you enjoyed the game, I'm happy for you. I really am. Because not everybody gets to experience Neyland Stadium nowadays. It's pretty tough for people to actually, just because of how ridiculously expensive it is to get into the door. But I've seen too many of these. I said when it was announced Tennessee was going to the Music City Bowl, I know how it ends. I could have predicted this from a mile away. Tennessee fans did not have as much interest in this game as, Tennessee would normally have in a bowl game, just because it's year 5 and you're going back to the Music City Bowl. It was cold outside. We knew it was going to be cold outside. And they got walked off again in the Music City Bowl. It just keeps happening. And I know Tennessee won't do it because fines are attached, but I think we're getting to the point where you have to decline bowl bids if you get invited to the Music City Bowl now, just because you know how it ends there. And it's not a rewarding experience for your team anymore because you keep losing there. And I don't know, I'm ranting a little bit, but it's just it's a movie that we've seen before, twice before, and we saw the third in the trilogy tonight as Illinois walked off Tennessee 30-28 in Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, honestly, lots of thoughts going through my head. I mean, as you would assume, I'm pretty frustrated about this loss. I remember talking to you a couple weeks before, thinking about going to this game. I'm so glad that I didn't. I mean, the tickets weren't extremely expensive. I mean, the most affordable tickets you could probably get all year outside of maybe like some of these smaller games like UAB. But I mean, the temperature with how cold it is. I mean, shout out to the fans that did go to the game because I would be extremely disappointed having to come home with a game-winning field goal loss to a Big Ten team, especially a team that Tennessee's never played against before. So Tennessee doesn't get the bragging rights right now. Illinois is currently ahead in the series 1-0. Just not really a great showing, honestly, at all. It's like the offense did not want to show up today. I don't know what was going on there. I mean, there were some parts of the game where I thought the running game looked good. I saw some good things from Star Thomas. Bishop was really good on that one drive where he got the conversion, ended up scoring. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, there ain't really too much to be happy with, to be honest. I mean, what's your thoughts on the game, Tucker?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you mentioned some frustrations. And to be honest, I think this is a terrible game to judge Tennessee on. I think that with all the things that we found out about as the weeks went on with all the opt-outs and whatnot, just with Tennessee not having Arion Carter at linebacker, Josh Josephs on the defensive line, Colton Hood at corner. Who am I missing? Jackson Moy and Wendell Moy, both Moys, did not play in this game because they were banged up. Jalen McMurray, kind of played in this game. He did make a big play late in the game, but they listed him as a healthy scratch in this game, I guess, is the best way to put it. As the opt-outs kept coming in, it's just like, okay, you have to set your expectations low in this game, and you know that you've got an interim defensive coordinator and William Inge just bridging the gap between Tim Banks and Jim Knowles. So, initially I just went into this game thinking, both teams can just go out there and have fun. Like I set my expectations low for Tennessee, and another reason why I'm kind of glad I did not go to this game, just because of just the way things were developing over the weeks. It didn't look like Tennessee was going to have a legitimate shot at winning, not only in comfortable fashion, but just at all. It just felt like Illinois wanted to be there more. And, we talked about it. Some of these northern schools coming down south for these bowl games, it is rewarding for them. I'm sure it's rewarding for Illinois fans to experience Broadway and whatever country music concerts were going on this weekend in Nashville. But I can tell you this, Nashville is not East Nashville in particular is not like some beachside paradise. So if the Illinois fans came down and enjoyed it, good for them for doing that. Crowd did not look good tonight in this game, just from all the shots that I saw. And I'm not saying that about Tennessee fans necessarily. Like, I expected there to be plenty of Tennessee fans there, but it looked like a lot of the stadium was empty. And again, I think that goes back to part of the enthusiasm that we mentioned with this team. But back to what I was saying earlier, I don't think this is a good game to judge this team and this staff on, just because of everything that we knew about going into the game. And I don't think this game should hold much weight on what happens next year. Just because you've got an opportunity to fix some of these things, and we'll get into that later on in this show. But you have opportunities to get right. This is not like the nail in the coffin of the Josh Heupel era or anything like that. This is not on the staff. So I think with that, we should probably get into what happened, what caused this downfall with Tennessee tonight in Nissan Stadium. Looking, because I usually keep tracks of two different stats over the course of the game, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Penalties were not a huge story, aside from the one Tennessee committed late in the game to make it a 3rd and 1 instead of a 3rd and 6. Not that it really mattered, because if hindsight's 20/20, but if you run the ball there and he still would have gotten the first down on 3rd and 6 had they run that exact same play. Like, they know Tennessee's not been able to stop them on the ground for a lot of the game, so I don't understand why they would go away from that, even on a 3rd and 6. And they know they need a field goal too, so it's not as if they're desperate to do that. I know they're trying to run out the clock at that point in the game, but Tennessee only committing 4 for 50 yards, which is not terrible. I guess 3 of them were of the 15-yard variety, one of which was absolutely not a penalty on Ethan Utley. Because that tackle was made in bounds. The other 2, William Wright did suplex the guy, but the whistle never blew, so you can't really blame it on him. The other one was absolutely a face mask on William Wright. And that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, Tennessee's running around with William Wright, Trey Poteet, and Sidney Walton at corner for most of this game. William Wright is a former walk-on playing corner out there, so you have to set your expectations low. I think, Jalen McMurray made plays over the course of the game. You had the one deflection to force the field goal that Illinois made to go up 27-21. And then he had another – he tried to make a play on one. I think that's what I was thinking of. Like, Altmaier just made a good throw on the play, but he was blanketed on the receiver. So I think the defense, for the most part, did what it could in this game. You finished with, I believe, 1 sack and 5 TFLs in this game, if memory serves correctly, if my notes are correct here, which is okay. It's not phenomenal, but you, again, did not have high expectations for your defense in this game. And in a lot of ways, Jordan, it reminded me of the Oklahoma game because and really there's only one difference, and we'll get into that difference later, but just a lot of similar things happen. Like, you have a defensive touchdown scored by one of their defensive linemen, and that feels like a turning point in the game. Your defense overall is doing what it can. I mean, it's not phenomenal. It's not going to be phenomenal, but it's doing what it can for a while. Yet the offense isn't producing enough to where the defense is just going to give out eventually. The dam is going to break, and I think that's some of what we saw tonight in this game.
Well, I like your comparisons between the Oklahoma game because I was reviewing some of the stats before getting on here, And Illinois had just as many tackles for loss and sacks as Oklahoma did in the game. They had 4 sacks and 8 tackles for a loss. Tennessee's offensive line seemed like they were struggling quite a bit throughout the game. I think it got a little bit better towards the end of the game, but I think the defense, like, given like all the people that are opted out, I mean, we already knew McCoy, he hasn't played the entire season. Arian Carter, we knew that he was going to be out in Joseph's. I mean, they still limited Altmaier to less than 200 yards passing. Um, the running game was a little bit harder to stop at times. It seems like they were able to bring it to the outside a little bit and to get big yardage. But I mean, given all that Tennessee lost, I think the defense wasn't like a huge factor into the game, but the offense struggled quite a bit. And, Joey Aguilar, every single game, as everyone probably knows by now, because they mention on every broadcast, he's thrown for at least 200 yards in every game he started in college until today. And I don't know if Chris Brazel's absence made a bigger difference or Kitzelman getting thrown back into the game, which I didn't think he was going to be playing at all. And I was surprised seeing him on the field because honestly, I like Ethan Davis a little bit more as a pass catcher. I don't know what it is. I mean, the offensive line wasn't on point. I mean, like giving up all these sacks. I mean, how many yards did Joey Aguilar throw for? Let me check this. 121.
That's not much.
That is pretty bad. So I mean, and I thought Tennessee was going to have success in the passing game because reviewing all of Illinois stats throughout the season, it seemed like they gave up a lot in passing game. And like I said week before, 3 out of their 4 leading tacklers were cornerbacks. So I thought Tennessee was going to have a field day with their defensive backs. I mean, I think we both thought this was going to be a big shootout game. Not really how I expected the game to go at all, to be honest. I mean, I didn't think Tennessee had a strong chance of winning this. Like, I thought it was going to be close. And like I said, I mean, if it came down to a field goal or anything like that, Tennessee was going to lose the game. Well, it came down to a field goal and Tennessee lost the game. I mean, there's a couple mistakes there, man. Like Tennessee, if they could have had him back, they would have won the game. I mean, Farouk, if he would have held on to that, I mean, that probably would have been a pick 6 right there on that one play. And then Tennessee would have won that way. Or, I mean, Gilbert hits that field goal earlier in the game. Tennessee wins. But of course, he can't hit a 39-yard field goal. And he's pretty accurate. I mean, reviewing his stats from that range the entire season. But of course, when the big moments come up, that's when he taps out. And I think Tennessee might need to worry a little bit about their kicking game in the future.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the point about the offensive line because the offensive line went from being one of the better units in the SEC to just falling apart on the back half of the season, really starting in that Alabama game. Of course, the Oklahoma game, it was pretty brutal because, you had a team that is capable of dominating you up front in Oklahoma. And, Tennessee loves to run the ball. It's one of the best elements of a Heupel offense, and Oklahoma was able to stuff it. But the key difference between that game and the game we saw tonight is Tennessee was able to run the ball effectively. Why Tennessee was going away from the run on early downs, I don't know. Because they were handing the ball to Deshaun Bishop, and Bishop was getting like 8-9 yards a carry on first down in many cases. Star Thomas has some very good runs tonight as well. It's not as if Tennessee was not able to run the ball. And I wonder if you could go back in some of those first half possessions and, rewrite the script a little bit. Don't come out throwing the ball as much just because, Illinois' pressure is messing with you a little bit in passing situations. You come out running the football and I don't know, maybe you could have reversed some things in this game if you just kept running the football. I don't know why they went away from that at points in this game because it worked. And for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the running game looked really good. And, like Star Thomas, he's been a little bit absent later in the season. Haven't been seen as much from him. But, I mean, times he was on the field in the game. Like, I remember him, he had almost like a 20-yard run at one point. I mean, he was looking good. Bishop was looking good. I mentioned earlier how that one drive, Bishop got the conversion, ended up getting the score on there. And I think on that same drive, Star Thomas had 52 yards on that one drive alone. So Tennessee was doing pretty good in the running game, and I agree with you, Tucker. I don't know why they abandoned the passing game more so than usual. And I mean, especially, I mean, you look at the box score on here, Tennessee only had 18 attempts, and you're talking about a team that loves throwing the football. Aguilar was only like 300 plus yards away from breaking Peyton Manning's single season passing yard record. But I mean, Illinois like clamped Tennessee down. I mean, not really much end up going in the passing game. But I mean, yeah, I wish that we could have gotten more carries to some of the running backs. Because I mean, it seemed to be working for Tennessee. And then, Illinois did exactly what I was worried that they were going to do heading into the game. And, they were just holding the ball for a bit. I mean, towards the end of the game, they just held that ball and played keep away from Tennessee. And that's one thing that I don't like about Tennessee's offense as much. I mean, Tennessee can score quick. They're really good. I mean, like with moving the ball downfield, but I would like to see some more cooperation with burning out some of the clock a little bit because, I think this is what ended up costing Tennessee the game. And honestly, too, I know it's hard to think about it when it's in the moment, but I mean, I know everyone loved the Dotson return for a touchdown, but in retrospect, I mean, he maybe should have ran it out there at like the 15-yard line and milked some more clock and then gave Tennessee a better chance to win. But I know it's easier said than done to do that because you had the ball in your hand and you haven't touched the ball all season because I haven't heard Dotson's name, just like the Jordan Rogers and the broadcasters talking. I haven't really heard Dotson's name the entire year, and then he makes a touchdown. But, I mean, maybe if he would have ran it out of bounds there, maybe Tennessee wins the game. But like I said earlier, there's other things Tennessee could have controlled and didn't. So who knows?
So back to the run game for just a second. Tennessee did have double the rush attempts as it did the passes. My main concern with that, though, just going back to what I said earlier, is that Tennessee came out passing on some drives. And, maybe if you run the ball to start some drives, you're a little bit more effective. But Tennessee was not capable of doing that. But I'm very glad that you brought up the kickoff return because it is actually the worst thing that could have happened to Tennessee in that situation because I tweeted it during the game. You hold them to a field goal, make it a 27-21 game. You've got 5:14 to play. You're running the ball at will on this team for the most part. And, if say Dodson steps out of bounds at like your own 40-yard line, you can at least chew some of that time off the clock, give yourself a chance to score and go up 28-27 with, well below 5 minutes to go in the game, like 2.5 minutes maybe, and force them to try and play fast. But that's not what they wanted to do. And because Joakim Dotson ran back that touchdown, you ended up letting them, or what am I trying to say? You ended up playing right into their hand. And I think that was a big problem. It turned into a really big problem. I'm glad Joakim Dotson scored the touchdown, and we'll come back to that later. But I do think just for the moment that was not good for Tennessee in this game. But let's see, what other notes did I have over the course of the game? Because we've talked about how the offensive line was not good and a defensive collapse felt inevitable at points in this game. One thing that I was wondering at the end of the half, and I'm not sure if it would have mattered just because of the way Tennessee's defense was playing, but Josh Heupel did not use any timeouts at the end of the first half. And I know they had not been super effective in the passing game, and I know that they got the ball to start the second half, which did not work out properly for them. But at the very least, I get it. Hindsight is 20/20, but why not call some timeouts there, try and double dip, build a little bit of a lead, and then feel good about yourself later on in the game?
Well, I mean, you don't even have to call timeouts even for clock management purposes either. I mean, Josh Heupel could have made some adjustments there that could have helped out on some other plays too. I mean, I'm not a fan of leaving timeouts on the table. I mean, I think if they give you 6 throughout the game, you should use all 6 of them. And that's another thing with Illinois too. I'm pretty sure they burnt off 2 timeouts before they even got in the fourth quarter, or at least at the very beginning of the fourth quarter. And then they still somehow won the game with just 1 timeout left. And then they ended up getting a timeout back again, which I thought was a little questionable. I didn't understand that because to my knowledge, they didn't even challenge that one play, right? Like they just called a timeout. Then the refs decided to review the spot of the ball. And then they gave the timeout back to Illinois. Maybe I just got confused there.
Jordan, it's not a Music City Bowl without some referee nonsense near the end of a game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen
It's
it.
not a Music City Bowl without that.
Yeah, and then yeah. I mean, we've seen enough of this Music City Bowl drama. Now it's been too much. We had one good game where Derek Barnett broke the sack record, and that's just about it. Everything else has been absolute heartbreak, and
Yeah.
not even a great bowl game to have these heartbreaks in either.
Yeah. Jordan got his 3 seconds of fame, and Tennessee went right back to its regularly scheduled program of heartbreak. That is exactly what's transpired in the Music City Bowl. Another moment to go back on in this game, and you mentioned it earlier, Jordan. What happens if Max Gilbert makes that kick? And I know it was into the wind. It was 39 yards out. It was the same miss that he had against Georgia. And I get it. Statistically, he is not the worst kicker in the world. But there's just been big moments this year where he has not delivered for you. The Georgia game, the Oklahoma game, of course, he had a miss. But part of the problem is he was going against Mr. Crimson and Cream Booty Shorts, Tate Sandell, the Groza Award winner, who was just running circles around him out there. But all the misses feel very inopportune. This is a big one too, because you could have at least gone up 10-7 at that point. Who's to say Illinois goes down and kicks that field goal at that point in the game? And of course, we're all guessing here. But maybe you have a little bit more momentum at that point, because you're at least coming away with points, and you're giving your defense a reason to play a little bit harder, because the offense is helping you out a little bit. I hate using the complimentary football thing because it just reeks of Butch Jones, but that's what it is. Like, if you do that for them, then it's a big help. But you don't do that, and suddenly you don't have as much momentum going into the locker room at halftime as you might have had you made that field goal.
Yeah, I mean, if Gilbert made that field goal, I mean, Illinois would have no other choice but to try to go out there and score a touchdown towards the end of the game. And then with their timeout situation that they had, I mean, I don't know if they would have been able to score on Tennessee there. I mean, I know Tennessee's defense has been a liability at times, but I mean, I like their odds there in the red zone, especially with all the momentum. You got the crowd going against you, which I know the crowd wasn't as big of an effect as it would be typically in Neyland, but you get the crowd into it a little bit more. Like, you know that they have no other choice but to score a touchdown. I mean, that puts pressure on some teams. And I was a little concerning when Illinois got the ball back, because I didn't know until the broadcast staff was mentioning it that Luke Altmaier had 6 game-winning drives as a quarterback.
Because of course he did.
And when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, Tennessee just lost this game, of course, especially if they're going to throw that graphic in there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if Gilbert makes that field goal. I mean, I think it's a completely different game, but I mean, I don't know. You could say that about a couple of games in this season. Tennessee would have at least, well, at this point, if Gilbert would have made that field goal and everything played out the same way that it did in the game, then Tennessee would have 2 extra wins on the schedule. I mean, if he made that one against Georgia too. So, I mean, you could argue 2 losses are in his hands in a roundabout way.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, it's a very disappointing result in this game. And, I don't think any of us were getting too optimistic about it. It was just kind of like, we'll see what happens. And then sure enough, this happened again. It's like a horror movie trilogy, the Music City Bowl for Tennessee. It keeps getting worse every single time Tennessee goes back there. Maybe when they build the dome, it'll finally be fine. The Music City Bowl, but another reason why this game would have been important for Tennessee to win too is that would have been your one win this year against a team with a winning record. And now that you are 8-5 to finish this season, you've essentially just proven everybody's point that you were profiting off of an easy schedule the entire season. Like, the only fond memory I think most Tennessee fans will have from this season is winning by 20 in the Swamp against one of the worst Florida teams we've seen in recent memory. Because outside of that, there's really not a ton of positive takeaways. Like, you look at the Power 4 teams they beat this year. They beat Syracuse by 19 in week 1. Syracuse, of course, was maybe an Achilles tear away from having a better season, but of course the Achilles tear happened. They go 3-9. You barely beat Arkansas at home. They go 2-10. You beat Mississippi State. The good news is Mississippi State's going to a bowl game. The bad news is they're 5-7. You win by 20 plus at Kentucky. They're 5-7, and you beat Florida, who goes 4-8. You don't have any wins against teams that have winning records. And to be really honest, Jordan, this feels very, very, very similar to the 2016 season, where you win 8 games in the regular season. Now, granted, the losses, especially the last 2, or really any of them for Tennessee this year, are not as bad as the losses were that season to South Carolina and Vanderbilt. But you're stuck in a Music City Bowl, this time with a worse outcome. And all around it just feels like there's a lot of disappointment from the fan base, and you're just really, really hopeful that this staff can get it back on track next year, because it's not looking good. It's not looking good right now. And with the 9-game schedule, I just wonder, is it going to be too much for the staff to try and overcome it? And then suddenly you're looking at a potential coaching change in 2027 just because you can't overcome it. Now, again, I'm not wishing that into existence. I really hope Josh Heupel can get this thing turned around, get some wins at home just for, the stability of this program, because, you've had some good days here. I mean, let's not let those things get lost, but it just, you're getting to the point where you're seeing a lot of the same things over and over again. You got to really hope that Jim Knowles nails this, was nailed in this defensive hire, because if not, it's hard to imagine things getting much better for this staff.
Well, I think the hiring of Jim Knowles isn't going to end up being huge for Tennessee. I think fans need to be patient with him, because it's going to take some time for his defense to develop. But I mean, I understand the disappointments amongst the fan base through the season, because, starting off the beginning of the year, it looked like Tennessee was on fire. It looked like they could have been a college football playoff contender. But as we seen as the year went by, the defense ended up becoming an issue. Well, Tennessee addressed that by getting Jim Knowles. They got rid of Tim Banks, so that's one thing right there. I mean, the kicking game's been a little bit of an issue. But yeah, I mean, like winning 8 games, I mean, considering all Tennessee went through in the offseason with Nico, with Boo Carter, with all of that, I mean, I think there's some positives you can take away with that. I mean, it very well could have been worse for Tennessee, but in retrospect, I think that a lot of us were probably wrong about Tennessee being a really good team at the beginning of the year. I mean, seeing how the schedules panned out, with the best wins being against like Kentucky and everything, like you mentioned, I don't know. I'm kind of glad the Tennessee's schedule ended up the way it did, because I think if some games are switched around there, Tennessee very well could have only won 6 games. And then if Tennessee only won 6 games this year, I don't know how happy the fan base would be with Josh Heupel. So I think, although it's been a disappointment, I think this is what Tennessee needed. So the hot seat wasn't raised up even further, because I think the last thing Tennessee needs to do is fire Josh Heupel. But I think if the season turned out in a different way, then maybe we could be having that conversation. But hopefully Tennessee can pick up everything moving forward next year, like I think they could. I don't think Tennessee's going to be necessarily a playoff contender next year. I think they'll be better than they were this year. But yeah, I mean, a disappointing season, but I'm just glad that it wasn't uglier than it was, because we could have been talking about a completely different situation right now.
Yeah, and it's almost crazy to say that it's a disappointing season when you look back at what happened in the offseason, but it really is the most disappointing season of the Josh Heupel era. Like year one, everybody gets a free pass in year one, I feel like, and Josh Heupel exceeded expectations, turning a program marred by NCAA investigations into a 7-win team that season, with one of the most explosive offenses in the country. Of course, 2022, you break a streak against Alabama. You win 10 games plus an Orange Bowl. You can't hate that. I know things ended poorly in South Carolina, but you're not upset by that by any means. The next season, it is what it is. You knew that the offense was not going to be nearly the same with Joe Milton. You lose a couple games that you wish you could have had back, especially on the road, because they ended up going 8-4 that season. But the thing with that season is you at least had wins over 7-win teams in Kentucky and Texas A&M, and you backed your way into the best non-New Year's Six bowl an SEC team can go to in the Citrus Bowl, and you won by 5 touchdowns. So overall, like it could have been much worse for Tennessee that season, and they still finished 9-4. Last season, yeah, Nico was what Nico was, and the offense was kind of iffy for most of the season. But you're in the college football playoff. It's your first time being there. That's a good thing. This season, the offense was significantly better than what it was a season ago. The defense, which you thought, could take a little bit of a step back, ended up taking a gigantic step back. And you regress to the means, you go 8-4, you don't beat anybody of significance. Yes, this was the most disappointing season for Tennessee under Josh Heupel. And, I think while it is still a little crazy to say fire Josh Heupel at this point, like you really need to see some progress and some reassurance that this thing is moving in the right direction. Like, you get to the 8 or 9 wins next year, but I don't know if it's possible just because you look at the 9-game conference schedule, you're going to have a lot of 7 to 9 win teams, and 10-win seasons are going to be something every fan base should cherish coming here in the near future, just because of how difficult the SEC has made its schedule just to bulk itself up for the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, next year is going to be quite a test for Tennessee because, I mean, based on how Tennessee wrapped up this season and knowing what they're bringing back next year, I think Tennessee will take a step up. Like, I think they have a lot of young guys, especially on defense, that are going to be a lot better next season. But I mean, you look at that schedule and there very well could be like 5 losses on there. I mean, LSU is going to be tough. Texas is going to be tough. Alabama is always tough. You know, even Auburn could be a toss-up game there. So Tennessee's going to have to get some things together, or people are going to start wondering more if Josh Heupel's really the future coach of Tennessee's team. But I think things are trending in the right direction. It's just a disappointing outcome to what happened to this game, especially because like you said, Tennessee hasn't really had a signature win this entire year. I mean, I think a lot of fans, like you mentioned, hang their hats on the 20-point victory over Florida. But I mean, in retrospect, they only won 4 games. It's not really that much impressive of a win. But I don't know. I'm still optimistic about Tennessee's future moving forward because, like I said, there's a lot of good young guys there. But I mean, there's going to need things to get situated. And like I said, I don't think the defense is going to be great next year. I think Josh Heupel's probably got like 2 more seasons to try to get Tennessee back into the college football playoffs. And if he ain't able to get it 2 years from now, I think more conversations are going to be coming up on him and being on the hot seat.
Yeah, and I hate this too for Josh Heupel a little bit, just because the expanded college football playoff has made it so that it is playoff or bust for everybody, and these bowl games have been devalued just entirely, and that sucks for everybody. Like, used to, you win 6 or more games and you go to a bowl game and it's some kind of reward for doing it just because only 2 teams can play in the national championship. But now that this thing has expanded, 8 and 9 win seasons are no longer good enough. And I think that's become a little bit of an unreasonable expectation on these coaches. The game is growing or moving in a direction that is not healthy for a lot of these programs. And I think that's something we have to realize with these conversations around Josh Heupel. And another problem that is out of Josh Heupel's control is this whole revenue sharing thing and all these ticket price increases. Ticket prices have gone up 14% from what they were in 2024. That's at least going into 2026. They're up, I think, 10% this year, and then they'll be up another 4% next year. And it's like, it's as if he's being unfairly asked to provide championships for the fans because all these ticket prices are soaring. And I don't think that's a reasonable expectation every year. And I hate that that's the case just because, it's not something that's in his control. But we're stuck here talking about this because it's something that could get him fired if he even wins like 7 or 8 games next year, just because we've created this reality in college football. It's not healthy. It's really not healthy for him or for any of the coaches involved in it this year. Like, Alabama fans, for example, or media speaking for Alabama fans wanting to run Kalen DeBoer off if he did not win a playoff game against Oklahoma. That's unreasonable. That's very unreasonable. And I think you have to think about that from school to school. Like if you miss the playoffs and go, 7-5 at some of these schools, like say Minnesota, for example, they're not going to raise a stink about it. But like in the SEC, and you just have to think about what the SEC has become too in college football. Like now, and I hate to say this, but Vanderbilt taking college football seriously for the first time in its existence has made it so that there are no longer any layups in this league year to year. And you're just going to have to deal with it year in and year out. And it's going to be hard, but everybody's going to be going through the same crap.
Yeah, I agree with you with the playoffs making higher expectations for these coaches, because I think about when I first started watching football back in the day, like, what's his name? Frank Beamer, he was really well respected at Virginia Tech. I mean, I know he brought Virginia Tech to a national championship when Michael Vick was there. But outside of that, I mean, I don't think he ever won one. And then I thought about how Hugh Freeze was held in high regard at one point too at Ole Miss when he was basically getting like 10 wins per year. And like having seasons like that used to be more respected back when these bowl games meant a little bit more. But now, like, yeah, you're right, Tucker. It's like playoff or bust, especially if you're one of these SEC programs where you already hold yourself to a higher standard too. Like, yeah, like you go to the playoffs, or if you don't, then like, it's like, what are you doing? Because that's like the whole end goal. And it's disappointing. I mean, I'm a big BCS proponent. I know it's been a long time since then, and not everyone's like that. But like, man, was football not much more exciting back then? I mean, there was no room for error. You lose one game, you better hope is at the beginning of the year to a quality opponent, or you had no shot of going there in the first place. So everyone played their best football night in and night out. And bowl games meant something. And, like coaches could hang their hats on winning 9 games every year and still thinking that is accomplishment, because you could still go play for the Sugar Bowl and win that. And then you basically got your consolation prize of the national championship right there. And that's something that people used to take pride in. Now it's like national championship or bust, especially if you're in the Big Ten or the SEC. I mean, it's got to be so hard for these coaches nowadays, not to mention paying all the players on top of it too. I mean, I could see why some of these older coaches are starting to struggle, and that's why some of them, like Nick Saban, started to get out. Like Dabo Swinney, like we're seeing him now. I mean, he had arguably a dynasty there running with Clemson, and now he's struggling to even like make a bowl game now. And it's just college football is changing at a rapid pace. And it's unfortunate that Josh Heupel's got to be one of the test subjects in this situation, because it could end up costing him his job in the future. Whereas otherwise, if we flash back to like 2010 and this was Josh Heupel's 5th year there, I don't think anyone would be complaining. I don't even think there would even be remotely a conversation about him being on the hot seat. But here we are talking about it because it's the world of college football that we live in.
Yeah, we've essentially doubled our expectations as a college football universe, SEC as a conference in particular, from 6 to 11 wins. I know that's not quite how that math works, but you get my point. Like, used to, it's like if you go to a bowl game, maybe you lose some games in between. It's a little bit of a disappointing season. But now it's like if you lose more than 2 games in a season, it's not a good season. And that's not good for college football. There's just a laundry list of things that we could talk about that are wrong with college football. And, not all of them apply here, but I think some of them do apply to some of this pressure that I think is being created for Josh Heupel around this Tennessee job. And I do wonder what happens next year with the, increase in conference schedule. Now, if the bottom falls out, then yes, I think you have to make the change. But, 7 to 9 win seasons are going to become commonplace in this conference. I hate to say that, but it's just where we are right now. As a football society, I mean, really, everybody is like that now because
Alabama too. I mean, Alabama and them are going to struggle as well. I mean, this ain't just a Tennessee thing.
No. 9-game conference schedule in the SEC is going to be brutal, and especially now that you have to play that. You're wiping away an easy non-conference game and making it so that you have to play a Power 4 / Notre Dame opponent out of conference. You're going to have to play 10 strong opponents most seasons. I know, Not everybody's going to be phenomenal each and every season because somebody has to go those records, but you're not guaranteed anything anymore. Like, you win, say, 2 or 3 games in conference play, and maybe you sweep non-conference play because you don't schedule anybody. You have 4 wins in your back pocket. You can no longer do that. Like Mississippi State under Dan Mullen, for example, was a team that used to do that. They win like 2 to 4 SEC games, maybe catch some teams not doing so well, but they just wouldn't schedule anybody significant out of conference. And then they'd have 7 or 8 wins by the end of the season because they do that. You can't do that anymore as a conference. There's no division shelter anymore. And that's going to make it tough on everybody. I know we've gone from Music City Bowl to just everything that is wrong with college football immediately. But I think it needs to be addressed just with what's happening with this team next season. And I think that's a good transition to what we should probably discuss to end this show. And we're going to discuss this more here in the weeks to come. But I just want to talk for a second about what this team looks like in 2026, because I think with the coaching staff, we understand what's going to happen. Rodney Garner getting retained, which is important just because of the ability he has with his eye for talent in both the portal and on the recruiting trail too. That's obviously a big help. Entire offensive staff is being retained from what we know, unless somebody gets hired away in the next couple of weeks. Willie Martinez is the only one that I'm kind of questioning. Is Jim Knowles going to bring his defensive backs coach with him? I think that's probably going to be the case. And if that happens, does Tennessee lose guys to the portal? I think it's another question in the defensive backfield. Not that it would be a huge loss for Tennessee at this point because, aside from Ty Redmond, what do you have coming back that you're trying to build up equity in your secondary? I don't think you have much of that. But, looking around, what does Tennessee need in the transfer portal? I think secondary, you absolutely need more bodies there because as we saw tonight, what they had is fine if it's got depth to supplement it, I think, but it didn't have the depth to supplement tonight. Therefore, it was not good. You're going to need some defensive linemen out of the transfer portal. I know you're bringing in some good defensive linemen in this class, but the talent that you have, while it is good, is thin. You have to be able to go out and get some guys that you can line up on that defensive front of the portal. And I'm sure that Rodney Garner is more than capable of finding them because we trust Rodney Garner on this show. We have as long as he's been at Tennessee. Offensively, I don't think we're looking at much. I think you're probably looking at a quarterback, though.
And a running back.
Yeah, because if this thing with Joey doesn't get settled soon, I feel like you have to change course. Because you can't just wait to see if the NCAA allows him to become eligible for another year and going well into the offseason. Because this could take several months. We know how the courts behave. They take very long to decide things. So they will not be moving very quickly with this, I can't imagine. So I feel like you have to go out and find somebody. And there's a lot of guys Tennessee could be going after in the transfer portal. We'll look into that as the portal season arrives, which it will officially on Friday. That's when it opens. And you mentioned running back too, Jordan. And with the Peyton Lewis thing, you have to. It's clear to me that Deshaun Bishop is your guy in this backfield. I don't know who they plan to feature in that mix next year other than maybe DeJuan Morris. Maybe we're just sleeping on Justin Baker, but we haven't seen him thrown around in this rotation at all. I did see where Dallin Hayden entered the transfer portal. That's Aaron Hayden's son. And I put out a tweet about that too. I put out a tweet about that too. And it's like, son of Aaron Hayden. It's also worth noting Tennessee needs a running back out of the portal in all likelihood. A lot of Tennessee fans were not happy about that tweet. Now, here's the thing. I get what you mean, or I get why you'd be irritated by that because it looks like I'm being suggested that Tennessee should get him from the portal. And I'm not necessarily endorsing it by saying that, but what I mean is you need a guy that can be like your Star Thomas, who can come in every few possessions and give you some nice runs. I'm not sure if Dallin Hayden is that guy. I'm not sure who is that guy in the portal, really. Um, it's clear to me that Deshaun Bishop is the future of this running back room. There's no doubt about that. But it's just a matter of having that third piece in there because you get past Justin Baker, you don't have any other scholarship running backs on your roster, I don't believe. Like Hunter Barnes would be the next guy in line after that, and he's a walk on. Now, Deshaun Bishop's a walk on too, or at least was. But at the same time, you don't want to bank on those guys being a big part of your offense every single year.
Yeah, I think Tennessee has to get somebody from some running back out of the portal. And like, it doesn't even have to be a big name guy. I mean, I wasn't aware of who Star Thomas was until he ended up committing to Tennessee. Then watched him his film and was like, this guy's pretty good. And he ended up being a pretty good back for Tennessee. I'm sure Tennessee can get another guy like him out of the portal, or at least you'd like to think. But yeah, I think they're going to have to get someone because I mean, I was shocked with this Music City Bowl that Morris. I mean, I'm looking at the stat line right here. He didn't have a single carry in the game. And I was thinking that he was going to be somewhat of a factor considering Peyton Lewis being gone. But I don't know if the coaching staff, if there's, I don't know how many games he's played in. Maybe they've been trying to hold him off for a potential red shirt or something. I don't know. But I feel like he's probably played right around 4 games if he has. But the fact that he didn't play today has got me a little concerned. I think Tennessee does need to go out there and get themselves another running back because they're going to need someone to take the load off of Bishop. And especially if there's going to be a new quarterback, like how it looks like it might be, Tennessee's going to have to rely on Bishop a little bit more and can't have too much of a load on him or he's going to get burnt out and get hurt.
Paul doesn't know who opt-outs are, by the way, because there's plenty of talent that opts out every single year. And the Big Ten does not play the SEC when the regular season is going on. That has not happened for the most part in the last 10 or 15 years. And the SEC is still having more talent drafted. So it could still win this year. Georgia could very well win. I'm not defending Georgia. I don't want them to win, but I think the SEC is still a stronger conference. You still got like 10 or 15 teams in the Big Ten who are not good year to year. There's like 3 or 4 powers at the top. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Big Ten's very top heavy.
Yeah, Big Ten's a top heavy conference. We're not denying that there are powers at the top, but come on, don't act like it's some super conference now. I guess the other thing we need to address is what some of these position groups look like. George McIntyre probably not going to start next season if you get somebody out of the portal. Faison, I guess, would not start either. It would have to be whoever you get out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's just what you're going to have to do. Running back, we've discussed at this point what you're going to do there. Wide receiver, you like what you got with Staley and Matthews. Rodarius Jackson was the other one getting run tonight, and you're going to keep him around. Now the question is going to be, how soon do you want to get Tristan Keys involved in this thing?
Immediately.
That's what I'm trying to figure out because Tristan Keys, he's a 5-star talent, and I'd love to see Tennessee get him on the field very quickly. But we also know the staff's tendency to play the older guys. Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson would be the older guys in this scenario. Does this staff still favor those guys, or are they ready to, rip the Band-Aid off and go with, say, Tristan Keys, maybe a little bit of Tyreek King in the mix? I know Tennessee does not play deep at wide receiver. There's only 3 or 4 deep every single year, but we can – I think it would be safe to say Tennessee would like to experiment with Tristan Keys next season at wide receiver. If that means cutting into Staley and Matthews' production, sure, do that. I think it would be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Heupel running with some of the older guys, like you said. I mean, he showed that he tends to do that every single season he's coached at Tennessee. And I'll say I won't be upset with that if Rodarius Jackson or Travis Smith comes in here and plays lights out, which I think they can be pretty good receivers. I mean, we haven't got to see a whole bunch from them yet, but I know there was a lot of hype of Rodarius Jackson around springtime. So maybe that could be a good case, but if there ends up being a situation where Heupel only runs 3 receivers like he seemingly always does, and Tristan Keys is the significantly better option than Rodarius Jackson, some of these people, then like he's gonna be like hurting himself. Like Josh Heupel's got to learn at some point to like not be a nice guy all the time and to get some of these things done. And I think there's hope there with him firing Tim Banks, hiring Jim Knowles. I think that's a big step forward. But I think if there's a situation where wide receiver number 3 is anywhere remotely like as good as Tristan Keys, I feel like you got to give Tristan Keys the benefit of the doubt and just try to progress him as soon as possible, because I mean we've seen some wide receivers before just come straight into college football and dominate. We saw Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams a couple of years ago. We've seen it with other guys in the past. I mean, Devontae Smith was good for a long time at Alabama. I hope Tennessee gets Tristan Keys in the mix quick, because I think that he can easily become Tennessee's best receiver, arguably, and that's saying a lot considering Braylon Staley's one of the best wide receivers in the SEC.
Yeah. I think the tight end room is fairly straightforward. You got Ethan Davis as your one. Van Dorselaer and Brame are probably rotational pieces for this group next season. And then after that, what do you got? I guess Cole Harrison, maybe, if he sticks around. I mean, I've not seen any announcement on him entering the transfer portal or anything, so who knows? You got Luka Wolf coming in. I don't know how much that guy sees the field. I got to be completely honest. If he's anything like Emmanuel Okoye, he will not see the field much. I hate to say it, but that may be the truth. Don't imagine Tennessee portals there much at all. Offensive line is interesting, particularly with the potential departure of Lance Hurd to the draft. If he feels like his draft grade is good enough. And here's the thing. You can declare for the draft after bowl games. It's not like all of these guys that opted out had to do that. They were banged up over points of the season, so I don't blame them for doing that necessarily. I don't know if Wendell Moya's stock is particularly high. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that if he decides to go. Of course, he was banged up tonight as well, so could not go for Tennessee. Jesse Perry is a freshman All-American, probably going to make a big jump next season. You got to hope David Sanders can make a big jump next year as well. I know he was a little slow out of the gate with that injury, but you're hoping he can improve there for Tennessee and develop into another high-caliber offensive lineman. And then, of course, Sam Pendleton. You know, he's going to be back next season as well. So I think there's hope for the offensive line. It's just a matter of what happens with Hurd at tackle potentially. And you just got to hope this group gets better next year, because the collapse over the course of this season was kind of shocking to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if Tennessee's offensive line can play how they did during the first half of the season, I mean, they're going to have arguably the best offensive line in the country next year. I mean, especially with everyone that they could potentially return. I mean, like you said, we'll have to see if Hurd ends up going to the NFL. Hopefully he doesn't. But, I mean, if he does, I mean, there's still Osenda coming out. And we saw that Sanders got a lot of playing time this year too. Now, I'm not a huge fan of putting a freshman out there at tackle. I wasn't a huge fan with David Sanders either. But, you know, you got to get him ready at some point. And if Hurd ended up going to the NFL, then maybe that's Osenda's time to shine, and maybe he can develop quicker than that. But I think Tennessee's offensive line is going to be pretty good next year, unless like craziness happens with the injuries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely how it feels at this point. It should be better next season. Should be making a step in the right direction, but you know, your offensive line is going to be a little bit up in the air just with the Hurd decision looming. Defensive line, I think we expect a pretty different looking group next year, except maybe off the edges. I think Caleb Herring and Jordan Ross are guys that you pencil in there. But looking at the interior, David Hobbs is really the only key participant that you're going to have back. I guess that means Ethan Utley is going to have increased snaps, maybe more Nathan Robinson snaps too, depending on what you do out of the transfer portal, just because Bryson Eason is gone. That dude is my age. He will not have any college eligibility left. I'm just saying he started at Tennessee when I did. I'm not saying anything that's untrue about Bryson Eason. I know people like to make those jokes all the time, but no, he has actually been at Tennessee for 6 years. Jackson Moy is out of eligibility from what I know. Don Bailey, I think, is also my age. If he's not my age, he's been in college for 5 years.
It seems like he's been there since Pruitt. I don't know if he has or hasn't, but it seems like he has.
If he's been there since Pruitt, then he is actually my age. So But a lot of those guys are going to be gone. So as we mentioned, we expect a pretty different looking group there next year. We'll see who gets involved. Maybe they try to get Darion Albert involved, the defensive tackle from Mississippi. Linebacker going to look a little different without Carter. I don't know if Ben Bolton has eligibility left. I think he would have been a senior this year. Which may be a good thing for this team.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ben Bolton, but it's true, man. You're not. He's not like he's some super athletic linebacker compared to the rest of these SEC guys. Jaden Perlotti and Edwin Spillman are back, and you're excited about what those guys can provide for you in the future. And who knows? Maybe you get Braden Riles and TJ White involved pretty involved pretty quickly. Maybe Jaden Harmon can make a big step in this room as well. So you're going to have some good stuff in the linebacker room next year. At least that's the hope. The DBs are where I'm wondering a little bit because you're going to have to portal a lot this season. I think one of the things that was not talked about as much last year is how much Tennessee lost in the DB room. Guys like Christian Harrison, bolting. There was one or two others. Obviously, we know about Jacoby Thomas.
Jacoby Thomas.
Yeah, Jordan Thomas is unfortunate. That was just injury-related stuff. But, I think Ty Redmond did a good job, all things considered, this year. Hoping that's a guy that you can depend on as a leader in the secondary as a sophomore and into the next couple seasons. I think he's done a nice job. But, I look at what the rest of this team will have to offer. We know Jermon McCoy is gone. We know Colton Hood is gone. Jalen McMurray is gone. The one question I have, though, Ricky Gibson. What happens with Ricky Gibson after this season? Because he will be, I guess, a redshirt junior because he only played one game this season, and by doing that, he will keep his redshirt, from what I know. So if he indeed comes back to Tennessee, and again, we have time to figure out whether or not these guys will enter the portal, so we'll update you if that happens. But if he comes back to Tennessee, then suddenly I feel pretty good about Tennessee's corner situation next year, especially if Tennessee can get some depth pieces in the portal. The safety position's a different story. You're going to have to get guys in the portal regardless. I don't think what Tennessee fielded there was good enough this year. I really don't.
Well, I didn't even think about Ricky Gibson potentially coming back. That would be absolutely huge for Tennessee because I think defensive line, although it's thin, like we said 1,000 times before, Rodney Gardner, we believe in him. He could make me an all SEC defensive lineman out there. That's how much we have trust in Rodney Gardner. Linebackers, I think, is going to take a huge step up because Perlotti, everyone we mentioned throughout the year, a lot of good recruits. That's going to be great. Defensive backs field, I was really concerned about that, but you talking about Ricky Gibson potentially coming back gets me really excited. Not to mention, look at the guys Tennessee's gotten in the past couple of years from the portal at the defensive back position. You got Jermod McCoy, who's potentially going to be a first-round draft pick, arguably would have been one of the best defensive backs this year. Then get Colton Hood to come in his place. Then he's potentially a first-round draft pick and an all-SEC caliber player. I mean, who's to say Tennessee can't do it 3 times in a row and get another good corner out of the transfer portal? Then you got Ricky Gibson, insert star corner that we don't know who that's going to be yet. And then you have Ty Redmond out there too, who's already been playing lights out for a true freshman. I really like that a lot. But safeties, yeah, I don't know what route Tennessee goes with that.
Yeah, if pretty pathetic is in regard to the safeties, then I would 100% agree. The T-Lander is terrible thing. The only reason that they would get rid of T-Lander is if they told him to leave, and I think fans at this point would want that. I know he's viewed as a leader in that room, but man, Tennessee has been plagued by slow linebacker play for so long, man. It is getting a little frustrating. It's because the sad thing is T-Lander wasn't even the slowest linebacker out there on the field this year. I'm not going to throw more strays at this guy because he's already taken some. But yeah, I'm not happy with this staff playing the veterans over guys that could be more talented. That policy that they've had for 5 years, that thing needs to break, or else that's ensuring that the staff is not going to be the staff for the future. I hate to say that, but that's the truth. Looking at special teams,
That's gonna be a problem.
what happens with Max Gilbert? Does he feel the pressure from the fans, want to get away and go somewhere else in the transfer portal? Or is he going to stick it out, work through some things psychologically, because being a kicker, it's all in your head. Is that something that changes this year? Do we think?
I highly doubt that he goes to the transfer portal, and I don't think Josh Heupel's the type of guy that would push him out either. Hopefully, he can get some help, but I mean, I feel like Tennessee's just going to be stuck with Gilbert next year, unfortunately, and I'm not very confident that he can change things around either.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he needs to visit a kicking psychologist or something to talk through his kicking struggles.
He needs to
By
see
the
that
way,
psychologist they had in Ted Lasso, man. Whoever that
yeah,
lady was, call her up.
yeah. Just do something to get out of your own head and make the kicks in the big moments when they matter. How can you flush those things out? Because that picture of him from the Georgia game where he's like looking to kick the ball, it's not. Yeah, it's just carried over. It's continued to carry over ever since he missed that kick. So I don't know what Tennessee does there next year. Looking at the rest of the special teams unit, Jackson Ross will be around for another year because this will be his senior year, I guess, because they got him from Australia. I know he's a little older than the average college student, but a lot of those guys are like that. I wonder if that Joakim Dodson kick return showed us something about who could be in line to be the return man next season for Tennessee. I get it. It was inopportune for what happened in this game. Tennessee hadn't had a kickoff return. The announcers were saying it. They hadn't had one since Velus Jones ran one back against South Alabama in 2021. Boo Carter certainly never gave you anything like that this year. I know he had like one or two nice returns against ETSU in that game you and I were at, Jordan, but it's ETSU. You'd hope he could do that.
Yeah.
How does this team solidify its punt return unit going into next season? Which, hold on, how many times did Illinois punt tonight? It's slipping my mind. If they did, it was not more than once or twice because they were constantly getting over the.
They punted one time.
Okay, they punted once. I figured it could not be more than twice because they were consistently over the 50-yard line. So we didn't really get a sample for who could be the next return man for Tennessee back there, returning punts. I know they've done it with Dwan Morris a few times after the muff with Braylon Staley. That was not going to happen in the Mississippi State game. So that's a very niche skill set, I guess you could say. Like, there's guys in the portal that are capable of doing that. Does Tennessee want to go that route, or does it trust what it has? Does it think it could potentially get somebody in that role, like maybe Joakim Dodson? We'll see. We'll see what they decide to do this offseason. But I think we've gone through the entire roster at this point of guys that could potentially be back, and you're just hoping for more excitement at this point. And we'll see what happens in the transfer portal. Tennessee needs to get guys in the transfer portal. So I think, if anything, it's going to help Tennessee more than harm it this season.
Yeah, and like I've said before, I think Tennessee's going to get good guys in this portal. Like, I've been very happy with the players Tennessee's gotten over the past couple of years, especially like this past season too. I mean, Wendell Moyd, like, great. Pendleton's been pretty good. Colton Hood, I mean, life changer on Tennessee's defense out there. Tennessee's got some good guys. I think that they'll get him again. I think just the next few seasons, people are going to have to be patient with that defense developing. And I think Tennessee will need to do something with a returner. I haven't thought about that aspect with like the transfer portal and getting a returner, but I am very open to that idea because I don't know who Tennessee has on the roster that could do it. Because I don't want Staley being out there with him being wide receiver number one. Morris, I don't know if he's really that guy. And also, if he's number 2 running back on the depth chart, I don't know if I want him back there either. And I can't think of any players on offense or defense that are shifty enough to really be put into that role. So I think transfer portal could be big for getting a punt returner because I don't know if Tennessee has one.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's something we're going to continue to monitor in the next few weeks on our shows. Again, we're not going anywhere. I know this is the final post-game show of 2025, and it's been a fun year, even though Tennessee didn't exactly excel on the football field this year. They were protected by their very friendly schedule, but we're going to continue to monitor this. In fact, I think we'll probably run somebody down next week to have this discussion about what Tennessee can do in the portal, try to bolster itself for the 2026 season. But I mean, Jordan, anything else from this game that you wanted to talk about? I mean, really, bowl games are just launching into the next season at this point. And, fitting that this is within, I guess, what are we, 27 hours of the new year that we're doing our last show on here. So I don't have much else on this game. I think this is just you experimenting with guys that you could potentially use next season, seeing what you got and seeing what you may need to get rid of before the transfer portal opens.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else left to say about the game either, but I did want to say thanks to all the listeners that have been tuning in throughout this entire year, man. Like through our first football season all the way through, it's been nothing but a blast. We're approaching 50 talking or Tennessee Volunteers lives coming soon. It's been a really fun year. Even if Tennessee's record hasn't been what we hoped it would be, no playoffs or anything like that, it's been a lot of fun. And at times it's been very therapeutic for some of these hard losses, like the Alabama game in particular. Really enjoyed getting on the show with that and ranting around. So we appreciate everyone that's been tuning in, liking, sharing all our videos. We appreciate it much. And like Tucker said, we're not going anywhere. The football season may be over, but we're going to be here every week giving you the best football news that we can give you.
I think we're closing in on 35 away from 1K subscribers, so we would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. We're getting very close to that number. They got to hit that magic 1,000. So it's getting close, but we appreciate all of you guys for sticking along with us. We appreciate the Tennessee fans in particularly, but we also appreciate the haters and losers, of which there are many, for jumping in and commenting on our videos. I know we've had some Georgia fans, we've had some Vanderbilt fans, we've had a lot of you Ohio State fans out there, and you know what? We still appreciate you. We appreciate you for watching all of our content, enjoying it every single week. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it. Tell any rival fans about it, really. Anybody that may be interested in college football, you may be interested in our show. We are going to continue doing this all throughout the offseason. There is no offseason here on the Voice of College Football Network. We try to make that clear to everybody that comes across our channel. And we have plenty to discuss here as we get into, I guess, what you call silly season with the transfer portal at this point. And let us simplify all of that stuff for you because, I tell people this all the time. It's best not to pay attention to college football while the transfer portal is buzzing around just because of how messy it is, which is why you have people like me and Jordan who will just do it for you. So just watch our show once a week. We'll tell you everything you need to know about the transfer portal, what Tennessee is gaining, what Tennessee is losing in it.
Oh, yeah. We're always going to give you the best of the best. That's what we're here to do. And we appreciate everything that y'all do for us.
Yeah. Again, appreciate everybody for jumping on with us tonight. We will see you in 2026. What day would that first show be? January 5th of 2026? I believe so. I'm pulling up the calendar right now. So we will see you all then. For Jordan Binkley, I'm Tucker Harlan. See you in 2026.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.